Chainsaw Man. Is it the greatest manga of all time? Probably not. Is it the least predictable manga of all time? Maybe. Chainsaw Man is a roller coaster ride if you're blindfolded and they change the tracks every other trip. You never know what to expect, what's gonna happen, or really how it's all gonna end. And honestly, that's why it's one of my favorite manga in existence. With a lot of other anime and manga, I feel as though I can usually predict more or less what's gonna happen. Obito being Toby, saw it coming. Archer being an alternate version of Enya, saw it coming. Itachi actually being a good guy, saw it coming. With Chainsaw Man, whatever pops up on the page after the page I'm currently reading, I have no idea, which is what makes theorizing about Chainsaw Man so much fun, because trying to climb into the brain of Tatsuki Fujimoto is not only fun, but also terrifying. But recently, I got sent a slew of questions about the end of Chainsaw Man Part 1's manga, and this specific set of questions got me thinking about a theory that maybe Denji has got a massive upgrade. See, as we all know, Denji's heart is Pochita, which makes him the Chainsaw Man. At least it kind of makes him the Chainsaw Man. But based off the incredibly mysterious and massively question-generating end of Part 1 of Chainsaw Man, I've begun to wonder, is Denji now more than just the Chainsaw Man? Is Denji, on top of being the Chainsaw Man, also become the Control Devil? Has Denji, outside of being the reincarnation of the entity that battled against all four horsemen of the apocalypse and the weapons devils simultaneously, also added being one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse onto his power list? And for those of you who are up to date with the manga, so am I, and I have some relatively compelling evidence to point this theory in the correct direction. Now, fair blanket warning here, we're gonna be talking about the end of Part 1 of Chainsaw Man. So if you're anime only, I'm gonna try my hardest to avoid spoilers, or at least give you heads up before there are spoilers, but we have to talk about the end of the manga of Part 1, so it's gonna be pretty spoiler heavy. So tread carefully. Now, with all the warnings out of the way, with no further ado, let's get into, is Denji the Control Devil? But before we get to theorizing about anything, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. And if you guys like the idea of me theorizing about anime, then you're gonna love my anime podcast, Otaku's Anonymous, where me and Danny Mata break down everything that happened in anime this week. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. But before we get into all that, guys, today we're gonna talk about our favorite new sponsor to the page, Bespoke Post. Bespoke Post is a monthly membership delivery club that sends you a box of awesome every single month. Now, inside of this box of awesome are some top shelf products from some super under the radar companies. And not to mention, unlike a lot of other membership groups, this membership is free to join. And also, you can skip a month whenever you feel like you don't need a box of awesome in your life. 90% of the products you receive in your Bespoke Post box come from small companies, most of which that are based right here in the United States. Like the TERRA box. The knife in the TERRA box is made by a company by the name of Bare Bones, based out of Salt Lake City. And the beauty of Bespoke Post is that every single month you're introduced to cool and new products that upgrade your life. And these products cover an incredibly wide range of things, being everything from outdoor gear to barware to clothing. Fill out one preference quiz and Bespoke Post will recommend boxes to you that they believe you'll like. And every single one of these boxes of awesome is filled with products valued around $70, but the box itself only costs you a fraction of that. But if you're afraid of the unknown, don't worry. You can preview your box before it's even shipped, and you can either keep the box, swap it with another box, or simply just cancel for the month. Bespoke Post wants to make sure that you only pay for what you want. So let's talk about the two cool boxes I got this month. You know, I had to get the TERRA box, which comes with the field knife, the detox scrub bar, which smells incredible, and the Audubon bird call, which makes little chirps. Outside of that, I absolutely adore popcorn, so I had to get the pop kit, which comes with 3 absolutely massive bags of different flavors of popcorn kernels, this duck fat premium cooking oil, and this incredible collapsible and microwave safe popcorn popper. Listen, those who know me know I keep a steak knife on my desk to open up packages such as this, but now because of Bespoke Post, let's just say my package game has been upgraded. To get 20% off your first box of awesome, click the link in the description and enter TWC20 at checkout, or go to bespokepost.com/TWC20. So control. It's one of the things humans are the most afraid of. In fact, some psychological experts will say that being controlled and/or loss of autonomy is one of our primal fears, which means that the Control Devil could pretty easily be considered one of the primal devils, which makes sense when you consider the fact that it battled against the Darkness Devil, a real-life Primal Devil toe-to-toe pretty equally. And while obviously both the Control Devil and the Darkness Devil inflicted some serious injuries on each other in this battle, I would say that the injuries inflicted to the Control Devil were slightly more grievous. But Primal Devil or non-Primal Devil, it's impossible to reject the fact that the Control Devil is one of the most powerful devils in the entirety of Chainsaw Man. So being able to appropriate any of the Control Devil's powers for yourself is massively important. As we've seen the Control Devil do things like pointing its fingers at somebody, saying bang, and obliterating their torso. Being able to kill people from a distance simply by knowing their names and having a sacrifice. And having the most important ability out of all of the Control Devil's abilities, being able to steal the ability of anybody you believe is lesser than you. Well, that's not necessarily accurate. Being able to place anybody that you believe is lesser than you into a contract with yourself, and then being able to steal their abilities after forming that contract, which has allowed the Control Devil to steal the abilities of some of the strongest people in the Chainsaw Man universe, allowing them to generate weapons made out of years drained from other people that can create swords that can cut through anything. And quite honestly, that's barely even the beginning. And having all of these kinds of abilities really makes the Chainsaw Devil one of the most terrifying foes you can come up against, especially when you consider the fact that the Control Devil is technically kind of unkillable. That is to say that the Control Devil has a contract with the Prime Minister of Japan that states if the Control Devil is ever killed, any injuries inflicted onto the Control Devil will simply be reflected upon a citizen of Japan, which is why even though the government of Japan knows who the Control Devil is, they never send anybody to go after it. As the Control Devil has been killed over 30 times, however, every single time the Control Devil dies, all of the injuries inflicted to the Control Devil are just inflicted to a random citizen in Japan, which means unless there are no more people in Japan left, technically the Control Devil will continue to come back to life. And considering the fact that the population of Japan is 125 million people, this means you would have to kill the Control Devil 125 million times in order to keep it down for good. Assuming you weren't Japanese, because if you were Japanese, one of the times you killed the Control Devil, you would just die. But fortunately for us, at least in the circumstance of battling against the Control Devil, Japan's population has been on the decrease for the last couple of decades. So at least we'll only have to kill him like 100 million times in 20 or 30 years. So all in all, the Control Devil really isn't somebody you want to find yourself up against. An insane set of abilities and 100 million lives really doesn't make the world's best enemy, which is why when Denji found himself up against the Control Devil in the final parts of part 1 of the Chainsaw Man, it was quite the battle. In fact, Denji finds himself in this battle having to separate his body from his heart. See, Denji, because of an incredibly specific set of circumstances that I'll go into a little bit here, was able to essentially clone himself. See, Denji understood that the Control Devil was obsessed with Chainsaw Man, as Chainsaw Man was this prophetically powerful devil that really stood toe-to-toe with the Control Devil. However, Denji, upon realizing that the Control Devil only ever wanted Pochita and not really him, separates Pochita from himself, creating a body around his Pochita heart that goes on to battle against the Control Devil, and keeping the body that he had separated his heart from alive with the power of Power's blood. See, Power as the Blood Devil was able to keep Denji alive without his heart, and therefore when the hearted version of Denji is battling against the Control Devil, the non-hearted version of Denji is able to appear behind the Control Devil with a chainsaw made of Power's blood and slash the Control Devil. Now this technically kind of kills the Control Devil. And the reason that we're covering this topic, even though it is kind of a spoiler, is because the question, how is the Control Devil able to die, is incredibly prominent on basically every internet forum talking about Chainsaw Man. And therefore, I feel as though I need to cover it in this video so people can have their question answered. As Denji uses the power chainsaw to slice through the Control Devil, he does technically kill it. Like we've already stated, the Control Devil is able to recover from any fatal injury. Therefore, technically, when Denji cut down the Control Devil with this power chainsaw, some random citizen in Japan just got sliced open by a chainsaw. However, the reason it's important that Denji uses this power chainsaw to cut down the Control Devil is because Power's blood gets into the Control Devil, and Power, as the Blood Devil, is able to hamper the regeneration of the Control Devil, which means the Control Devil couldn't instantly pop back up from this fatal wound. See, that's the real problem with the Control Devil, is that they have a devil's regeneration. With any amount of blood, be that either from a devil or a human, they can continue to regenerate pretty much infinitely. And unfortunately, in the case of the Control Devil, that's doubled, because a wound that would kill your average devil won't kill the Control Devil, because once again, all injuries incurred to the Control Devil are just reflected on a random citizen of Japan. However, if you hamper the ability of the Control Devil to regenerate, you can keep it dead for as long as possible. However, this does technically raise one issue. For as long as the Control Devil is dead, random citizens citizens around Japan will continue to die. Since the wound of the control devil technically isn't being healed, that wound is constantly being reflected on citizens of Japan, which means at an undisclosed rate that we never find out, random citizens are dying around Japan until either the control devil heals or disappears. And disappearance was the elective choice of Denji in the rest of the devil hunters. See, Denji, upon realizing that the control devil really couldn't be killed, came up with a plan to keep the control devil dead for as long as possible. And in order to do that, he needed Power's blood to hamper its regeneration. Then, upon hampering the regeneration of the control devil, Denji was to eat the control devil, something he was urged to accomplish quickly. As like we've already stated, the longer that the control devil is dead, the more people around Japan die. So Denji has to eat the entirety of the control devil's body, eventually becoming one with it. And once Denji has consumed the entirety of its body, people in Japan stop dying, which is interesting for a couple of reasons. One, this means that somehow Denji consuming the entirety of the control devil's body broke the contract the control devil had with the Prime Minister of Japan. And two, Denji going so far as to consume the control devil's body raises a couple of key questions. See, Pochita has an ability known as Devil Erasure, which means any devil that Pochita consumes will be forgotten from existence. And not only will the devil be erased from existence, but also the fear associated with the devil. And this is why nuclear weapons and bad Germans no longer exist in the Chainsaw Man universe, with the only people who remember these concepts destroyed by Pochita being the four horsemen of the apocalypse. And therefore, since Denji is kind of Chainsaw Man, him consuming the control devil should have gotten rid of the control devil and the concept of control. But almost as fast as the control devil's body is gone, the control devil reincarnates on Earth, which raises another very logical question. Why would the control devil reincarnate on Earth? It said that if a devil dies on Earth, that devil reincarnates in hell. And if a devil dies in hell, they reincarnate on Earth. And because of this, devils are immortal. And the only way a devil can die is if they're consumed by Pochita. So why didn't the control devil disappear even though it was technically consumed by Pochita? And why would it reincarnate on Earth? Well, the reason the control devil didn't disappear is because the control devil wasn't eaten by Pochita. The control devil was eaten by Denji. Now, if hypothetically Pochita had manifested in Denji's body like he did when he took Kobeni out on a little date and then consumed the control devil's body, it's a possibility the control devil would be erased. However, since Denji is the one doing the consuming here and Pochita is only Denji's heart, it's not necessarily like Pochita consumed the control devil, and thus the control devil continues to exist and reincarnate. Okay, fine, then why would it reincarnate on Earth? Shouldn't it reincarnate in hell? Yes, it should reincarnate in hell. So how did it end up on Earth so quickly? Well, there's a couple of possible answers to this. One that people posit as the most likely is that the control devil, when it got to hell after dying at the hands of Denji's mouth, was killed by other devils and therefore reincarnated on Earth. And technically, this is a possibility and probably the most likely possibility. That is, of course, if we ignore the fact that the control devil fought the darkness devil, a devil that's so powerful it's never been killed and therefore never been to Earth, to a standstill. If the control devil is so powerful it's able to go toe-to-toe with probably the most powerful devil in hell, what devil killed it? Because truly the only devils capable of killing the control devil would be primal devils, and there's only two of those we know about. So did the control devil just have the extreme misfortune of appearing in hell in front of the darkness devil that was pissed that it broke its arm? Or is there something else at play here? See, the way I see it, there's one of two reasons that the control devil would remanifest back on Earth so quick, and both of them have to do with Denji and Pochita. See, my whole theory that there's no devil in hell that could kill the control devil outside of the primal devils is predated on the fact that the control devil went to hell at full power. Because obviously the control devil that we see battle against the darkness devil is a full-powered version of the control devil. And while we understand when a devil dies, its personality resets, that doesn't necessarily mean its powers reset. Well, obviously things like battle IQ and battle prowess and experience will disappear as the old personality dies with, well, the last version of you that died. That doesn't mean that the control devil will just appear in hell weak as a newborn babe. It's still an incredibly powerful devil, one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, based on one of the most universally feared concepts in humanity. To assume that any devil outside of a primal devil would be able to run up on this version of the control devil and win is a stretch. But what if there was something else nerfing the control devil in hell? See, well, obviously Chainsaw Man wasn't the person who ate the control devil. Part of Chainsaw Man ate the control devil. And funnily enough, we kind of have a precedent for something like that happening previously. Yes, the control devil was able to come back in the forms of Nayuta, who Denji is now raising like a little sister, and therefore Pochita's devil erasure technique didn't work, at least not fully. See, we know in Chainsaw Man's battle against the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse that he was able to take a bite out of the War Devil, and because he took a bite out of the War Devil, he permanently weakened the War Devil, to the point where the War Devil in a weakened state had to go to Asa in part 2. And because of this, the War Devil now exists in a fiend-like relationship with Asa, as it's too weak to currently exist on its own. And this is a really good example of Pochita eating part of a devil. See, well, obviously Denji was the person who consumed the control devil, Denji's heart is still Pochita. And therefore, while Pochita wasn't the person doing the eating here, Denji is at least partially Pochita. Therefore, what I'm driving at here is that while Denji failed to erase the control devil, he did manage to take part of its power. And therefore, this weakened version of the control devil in hell was unable to defend itself and was killed pretty much as fast as it got there and was sent back to Earth. And considering the current form of the control devil comparatively to the old form of the control devil, this kind of makes sense. And see, the control devil in part 1 was fully grown, and since devils are immortal, they don't age. Whatever form they manifest with is their form. However, in part 2, the control devil Naota is a child, and while we haven't seen Naota battle against anybody in any real sense, the control devil manifesting as a child, at least aesthetically, leans towards the fact that it might be weaker. Really, the only thing we've ever seen Naota do is put Asa under her control, which is kind of impressive when you consider the fact that Asa is the war devil, and also is kind of terrifying when you consider the fact that Naota as a child is probably more likely to believe that more people are under her than the previous version of the control devil, as the previous version of the control devil was able to ascertain how powerful people were, and therefore by ascertaining how powerful these people were could actually make an informed decision about whether or not they were below it. But Naota as a child probably doesn't have that ability, and therefore could probably make a lot of false misconceptions about people being weaker than her, which actually might make her stronger than her previous iteration. I'm destroying my own theory. But the beauty of this theory is that it didn't even just start with part 2 of Chainsaw Man. See, technically this theory has been years in the making. See, before Tatsuki Fujimoto even started Chainsaw Man or Fire Punch, his other manga, he was an up-and-coming manga artist who a lot of publishing companies believed couldn't write a character that was worth investing emotionally into. And therefore, Fujimoto decided to do a special one-shot, a story about a brother and a sister, Kenji, like Denji with a K, and Naota. Now, in the story, Naota is this child of prophecy, born with horns, with the ability to control incredibly powerful magic. And Naota not only kills her mother while she's being born because of the horns, but also eventually leads to the death of her father, as a cult of people believe that she's the child of prophecy who's gonna bring the end of the earth, which leaves just Kenji and her. And Kenji has to raise Naota, who's continually killing all of the animals around her and throwing them at Kenji, and while also having the inability to speak any words outside of violent words like massacre, blood, heart splatter. In this one-shot manga tells a story of how Kenji is trying to raise a violent sister who he may or may not be afraid of. However, it's revealed as the manga unfolds and Naota's been killing these animals because Kenji never really eats, and therefore Naota is trying to give these animals to Kenji so he'll eat. And slowly but surely, Kenji realizes that regardless of how terrifying his sister might be, and regardless of how much the world might hate her, that is his sister, and he will do whatever he can to protect and raise her. And therefore, one could argue that Denji and Naota's relationship as brother and sister, with Denji trying to protect a violent and scary little sister, has been prophesized for years, as it's just Fujimoto bringing back some of his favorite old characters. So what if the control devil actually never went to hell? What if the reason that the control devil manifested back on Earth so quickly is because the control devil was tethered to Earth through Denji? See, when Denji is consuming the control devil, after he finishes it, he says, "I'm now one with you," possibly tipping his hat that Denji has actually in some way or another connected with the control devil, whether that either be spiritually or just simply by taking the powers of the control devil. And because Denji and the control devil were technically now one, the control devil's spirit never returned to hell, instead reincarnating on Earth immediately because of its tether to Earth, because the control devil remains alive in Denji, with a part of its power manifesting elsewhere on Earth and reincarnating in the form of Naota. Which means not only did Denji probably weaken the control devil by eating its entire body, as part of him was Pochita, but also while eating its entire body, synchronized with the control devil and became one with it, tethering its soul to the living world until Denji one day kicks it. Which thematically would actually make a lot of sense, because like I've already stated, the control devil was a massive Chainsaw Man fan and wanted nothing more than to be with the Chainsaw Man, which since it was consumed by Denji and now Denji believes it is one with the control devil, it kind of is with the Chainsaw Man, as there's already proof of concept that other devils outside of Pochita can survive in Denji's body. Power's blood was able to survive in Denji's body for multiple multiple days. So Denji, by consuming the body of the control devil, assimilated the control devil. Now, this is most likely to do with the fact that Denji isn't full Pochita. If Denji was full Pochita, he probably wouldn't be able to assimilate anybody, because the second that he consumed anybody, they would just disappear. Since Denji's body is already technically engineered in a way that's assimilating with the devil, I mean, Pochita is his heart, Denji, by consuming other devils in entirety, might be able to assimilate not only their spirit, but also maybe their power. Because mind you, when he had Power's blood in his body, he was able to form that blood into a chainsaw. And now one could say this was Power doing it, much in the same way that it was probably Power keeping that body alive. Denji's also able to manifest the powers of Pochita. Now, technically, he could only have this ability for people that he loves. But Denji possibly assimilating the spirit of the control devil makes sense when you consider the fact how close him and Naruto are, and the fact that Naruto has a magnetism towards him and is unable to control him. In fact, it usually goes the other way around, as Denji is usually the person telling Naruto what to do. Now, obviously, the previous iteration of the control devil also technically couldn't control Denji, at least with its powers. Naruto is incredibly protective of Denji and views him as probably the most important person in the world. Considering the fact that devils' personalities reset when they die, and Naruto possibly died twice in order to get back to Earth, Naruto shouldn't know anything about Denji, let alone have any kind of feelings towards him, and yet she loves him like a brother, instinctually trying to run off any women who get close to him, like Asa. Now, this also could just technically be because Naruto's new personality is significantly friendlier than the previous control devil, as Naruto was caught when she remanifested in China relatively quickly. And Naruto obviously doesn't have the memories of battling against high-level devils in the Chainsaw Man for hundreds of years, and therefore, since she isn't jaded by the 100 years of battling against humans and devils, and is also very humanoid, and since we know from the likes of Angel that humanoid devils are usually friendly towards humans, it's a possibility that she was just caught early enough that she can be raised as a regular person. And since Denji is the person doing that raising, she likes it. However, considering how the last iteration of the control devil ended and the fact that Denji is now with the new iteration of the control devil, I can't help but assume something fishy is going on here. But honestly, who's to say? Maybe the Darkness Devil did find this weakened new version of the control devil the second it manifested in hell and killed it. Maybe the Darkness Devil was upset that the control devil had inflicted injury upon it and then fled, and therefore took its anger out against this fledgling control devil that didn't understand why the Darkness Devil was upset with it, which sent the control devil back to Earth, where it was able to get nabbed up before it was made evil. Honestly, who knows though? We're trying to hypothesize what's going to happen in Chainsaw Man, like trying to predict what's going to happen in a blindfolded gunfight. I just made this theory up 2 hours ago because somebody emailed me 3 really good questions, and I was like, how do I answer 3 questions in a YouTube video that people will watch? And those 3 questions were, how did the control devil die if they had a contract with the Prime Minister of Tokyo that basically said they can't die? How did the control devil remanifest on Earth immediately? Why did the control devil not fall prey to devil erasure even though Denji ate it? Therefore, I had to make a theory that somehow answered all 3 of those questions, but also you would click on. But in the process of making this theory, like I do with a lot of my theories, I've completely convinced myself of it. And maybe, just maybe, I've convinced you of it as well. And even if I haven't convinced you of it, at least I've answered 3 incredibly pressing questions. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the beauty of content creation. Do you guys agree with my theory? Do you have better answers for those 3 questions? Tell me in the comments below. And while you guys are down there, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, hit that noti bell. See, the real irony of Denji possibly getting the control devil's powers is that he would never use them because he doesn't think he's better than anybody. On top of that, he wouldn't ever try and control anybody. He just kind of wants to do his own thing, be Chainsaw Man, be famous. So like, even if he did manifest all of the control devil's powers, he would never find out.